So one of the most important things you'll want to remember if you're working with the power of your mind is this, is that in order to get results, you need to work with your mind in a different way, meaning that if every single thing that people did got results, then everybody all around you would be getting results. But that's not the case. So often people have been working with their mind for years and years and years, and they're not really getting the results that they want. Now, the key that I want to share with you today is that so often people are inadvertently reinforcing the pattern and they don't even realize it. Now, let me give you a clear example that you'll be able to see. So often I'll see people who have had patterns of hurt or wounding or whatnot growing up. And then as they're working with their own mind, they start bringing in the concept of self-abandoning. Maybe you've heard the term. It's a buzzword, if you will, where more and more people are using that term of self-abandoning, self-abandoning. Now, the problem is this, is that the mind works with patterns. So they're not just saying a word, they're actually inadvertently reinforcing a pattern. Now, let me explain, because I see this all of the time backfire in people's lives. Now, if we start with a simple example of psychology, where patterns can breed more of the same. We can look at concepts like, Freud's work. We can look at repetition compulsion or reenactments, attachment theory, whatever you want to call it, law of attraction. Basically, patterns attract more of the same and more of the same. So on a simple, unfortunate note, somebody may have a pattern of rejection that shows up repeatedly over and over, or a pattern of abandonment or hurt, or another unfortunate example, a woman may have an abusive father and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. So notice for a moment, the patterns show up in different ways. So a person may have felt criticized by their mother growing up, and then they grow up and they have a critical boss, or they feel like their wife or husband is always criticizing them. They feel constantly criticized, or even they're criticizing themselves. So that pattern repeats itself all of the time in a variety of different ways. Now, my point is this, is I can't tell you how often I've seen somebody who grew up feeling hurt and feeling a rejection or abandonment, and then they start to work with their mind, and then they develop a feeling that the word self-abandoning is really cool. And so they're using, this, I was self-abandoning, that, I was self-abandoning. Now, they think it's just a word, but ultimately what they're doing is reinforcing the very pattern they're trying to get away from. So then it shows up in a variety of different ways, just like the example of self-criticism, where somebody can feel criticized by their parent, and then they end up criticizing themselves, and they have these patterns going on. My point is it reinforces the very pattern somebody's trying to get away from. And ultimately what we need to do to be able to break a pattern is we really need to feel in a different way. So in other words, let's say somebody has been feeling criticized over and over and over again, and they're criticized. Now, when they really shift that pattern, and they stop feeling that, they stop feeling deserving of it, they stop feeling aligned with it, their mind stops working in that way. What happens is this, is somebody can give them feedback, and they don't feel criticized, or they're showing up in a different way, or they're attracting a different type of person. And that's what happens. They can go from feeling criticized to feeling confident and feeling complimented. And I've seen that so often, where I've seen people have patterns of always criticizing themselves or feeling criticized, where they're attracting it left and right. And then they ultimately address the pattern at a deeper level, because maybe it's affecting their health, their life, their relationships. And so they really address that pattern and they shift it. And suddenly, as they're shifting it, they're feeling more confident. They're feeling better. They're attracting compliments instead of criticism. So that radical shift takes place to where they're really feeling in a different way. Now, if you picture somebody going from feeling critical and feeling criticized to feeling confident and feeling great, that is a real transformation. It's beautiful to watch people do that and feel confident and loving and connected in their lives and healing themselves. It is a beautiful transformation. I see people do it all of the time when they really rewire their mind at a deeper level. Now, my point is, in this case, is notice where if we look at abandoning, people will have a pattern of maybe feeling abandonment or rejection, and then instead of getting rid of the pattern, they're reinforcing it. Then they go, oh, I was self-abandoning. I was self-abandoning. Oh, I was doing this. I was self-abandoning. So then it's showing, it just becomes part of the pattern. They're in their life and with their friends or with their family or whatever it is. It's literally perpetuating the same pattern. Now, not only is the feeling of abandonment or rejection not a great feeling, and so you wouldn't want to perpetuate that, but of course, that can affect somebody's health and life. I mean, we know love and connection is so important. And so I'll see people who literally have been working with their minds for 5, 10, 20 years trying to heal themselves, and simultaneously having wording like, oh, I'm self-abandoning, reinforcing the very problems and the wounding and not even realizing it. And so the insight that I want to share is this, is number one, when I was working on healing myself, I realized that, of course, that I needed to start doing something in a different way, that if I was going to get a different result from others, I needed to work with the mind in a different way. And I also really started to understand the mind and patterns at a deeper level. And I call it whack-a-mole. It's like when a pattern can show up over here, show up over here, show up over here. Now, when you start to realize that patterns can show up in a variety of different ways in life, and that we can keep attracting patterns, what you start to realize is ultimately that perpetuating the very pattern over and over and over again becomes a problem. And so many people don't realize they're reinforcing it. In fact, if you think about last week's episode, I worked with a beautiful volunteer. Her name was Toni. Beautiful, beautiful being, still celebrating her. She's just an amazing and sweetheart. And if you think about it, in that, and by the way, we're celebrating. Why are we celebrating? Because her latest scan came back 0 cancer. So that was huge for her to go from breast cancer, metastasized cancer throughout her bones, throughout her liver, to her doctor's now latest 2 scans. Cannot find any cancer at all. And of course, she's amazing. She transformed. But what you notice, even in that last week's episode, that she had been reinforcing the very patterns that she was trying to get rid of. And that's what people can do, is inadvertently end up reinforcing the trauma patterns. And so thinking about the mind in a different way, working with it in a different way, that's the key. And if you think about it, even if you have a pattern of hurt or rejection or upset or self-criticism or whatever it is, of course, these patterns can affect your health, your life, your happiness, and how much you enjoy life. And so when we take these patterns and we really get rid of them and transform them completely, that's pivotal. And so one simple thing you can do is, instead of continuing to feed the problem in a variety of different ways, even start programming in how you want to feel. Going from even the example of self-criticism to feeling or criticism to feeling complimented, to feeling confident, to feeling complimenting others and self, and feeling that sense of confidence. That's one way. Or with abandoning, or self-abandoning, and getting rid of all the abandoning, and instead start feeling what it would feel like to feel loved and connected and adored and appreciated and self-love, and really shifting the pattern. And of course, it's not just positive thinking. We really need to repattern the mind at a deeper level. But my point really is just that so often people are trying to do the positive things and yet simultaneously actually feeding and fueling the negative. And this example of self-abandoning is just one example of the things that I see all of the time, which makes it really hard to get results. And so that's what I wanted to share, just because we've been talking lately about not only healing with the patterns, but also the week before that, we're talking about healing relationships and connections. And so, a lot of times people, they want love and connection, and then here they go bringing in a pattern of self-abandoning, and they feel more abandoned than ever in a variety of different ways and disconnected. And so That's not what we want to feel for healing, for transformation, love, connection, all of it. And so that's the insight that I want to share. And of course, by the way, if you're somebody who's wanting more information as far as mind-body healing and how it works, there is a free training in the show notes. And as always, I want to ask you to please do take just a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know, because the more that every single person in our world feels healthy and happy and loved and loving it truly, the better this world is for all of us. And so please do make a point to hit the share button, and please do make a point to have an incredible rest of your day. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there.